Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Kilo Show Live. I'm going to give it a minute for folks to file in. So while we wait, go ahead and drop where you're joining in from the chat. So if you've been to my previous webinars, you know that I'm usually in New York City. You might recognize that this is a different background if you've been here before. And that's because I'm in San Francisco right now for a fun little event that I'm going to chat about a little bit later with Brendan. But I'm always curious to see where everyone's calling in from. Thanks for being here. Got some super exciting news to chat about. So I'm just going to give it a minute for folks to join, then we can get started. Seeing Ottawa, Hoth, Wisconsin. Is it as cold in Hoth, Wisconsin as it is in Hoth from Star Wars? That's a super nerdy joke to make, but I'm curious. Yes, perfect. See Budapest. From the mountains of Colombia. Wow. I've never been to Colombia, but I've always really wanted to go. I've heard the nature is beautiful. All right, awesome. Looks like we've got a good crowd. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brian. I'm a developer relations engineer here at Kilo, and this is the Kilo Show Live, which is more of a variety show format. We're going to bring on a few members of the Kilo team to talk about some awesome stuff that's been shipping lately. And there is a lot, per usual. If you've been following us even casually, you might know that we ship at what we call Kilo speed, and this past week has been no exception. So today I'm going to kick things off with a couple of big announcements, and then we're going to bring on some guests, and it's going to be a good time. So let's get excited. So here's what's on the agenda, and you'll have to excuse my screen switching because I am traveling, so I don't have my usual monitor set up. But today we're going to talk about our brand new CLI 1.0, which was basically a ground-up rebuild of our terminal native agentic engineering experience. We're going to talk about the Kilo League, which is a brand new hackathon league that just launched a couple days ago, which will end with a $50,000 grand prize at the end of the year. We have guest segments from some of the Kilo team members, Yob, Alex, Brendan, and maybe Ari. We'll see if he can make it. And then we have the open source sponsorship program, which I want to call out. And we have a bunch of other fun things that we're going to sprinkle in there too from our guests. All right, so let's start with the big one. And I'm jumping back over to switch my slide here, which is the Kilo CLI 1.0. It's here. Big news if you were paying attention to Kilo stuff earlier this week. You might have seen that we rebuilt our CLI. And I know some of you are thinking, okay, a new CLI, what's the big deal? Why rebuild it when you already had one? Honestly, I get that, but I want to explain why this one matters, because it's not just like a thin wrapper around our VS Code extension now. This is a total rebuild, and it's, in my opinion, a really significant step for the platform. So here's the context. Up until now, Kilo has been primarily an IDE experience, or up until the past few months, right? That's where most people use it with the VS Code extension or JetBrains extension. You've got the 6 agent modes. If you didn't see, we just launched a 6th agent mode, which is review mode. You pick your model and you build, and that experience is incredible. We got over 1 million developers using it. Been #1 on OpenRouter, over 20 million or a trillion, way more than million tokens processed. Like the IDE extension is awesome. There's no question. But here's the thing: we understand that developers don't live in one tool. You're in VS Code during the day, but then maybe you're SSH into a remote server at night debugging a production issue, or you're on your laptop at a coffee shop and you just want to spin up a quick terminal session, right? The best tools should go meet you where you're at. And that's really the thesis behind Kilo as a platform. It's not just the extension. It's the extension plus the CLI, plus cloud agents, plus the app builder. And we wanted to make sure that every interface in which you access Kilo is world-class and the absolute best experience for agentic engineering. And the CLI is a massive piece of that puzzle. And we felt that rebuilding it the way we did would bring about the best terminal native agentic engineering experience much faster. And there are a couple of things that make it special. First is it's fully model agnostic, just like the rest of Kilo. 500 plus models, you can use them anywhere else in Kilo. Pick the right model for the task. Maybe you're using Opus for something that needs that deep reasoning. Maybe you're using a faster model for quick refactor. Whatever. The CLI gives you that same open model selection that you get in the IDE. Second, it's open source, which we're super committed to open source. Kilo loves open source. We have our sponsorship program. Everything we do is open source. And I want to give some credit here, which is important, which is that we built this on top of OpenCode, which is an open source CLI for agentic coding that already had an incredible foundation. And rather than reinventing the wheel, we said, what, this is a proven base. Let's integrate this technology deeply with the Kilo platform and then go ahead and contribute back upstream to OpenCode, which I think is what open source is all about, right? Opening up the best tools for developers and committing to giving back and making sure that developers have insight and transparency into the tools they're using and that they're getting the very best. And third, I already mentioned it, but it's deeply integrated with the Kilo platform. You can use the same models, the same tokens. You can start a project in VS Code or Cloud Agents and pick up that project in the terminal and work where you work without managing separate subscriptions or API keys. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you what that looks like real quick, if I can manage the screen sharing. And I am curious for the chat here. So as promised, we're going to give away $50 of Kilo credits to 5 random attendees plus 5 pretty swanky Kilo t-shirts. And the only requirement to putting your name in for those prizes is to ask at least one question. So I am curious if anyone's tried the new CLI, and you can go ahead and ask questions in the questions channel, which is next to the chat, or in the chat, and we'll find them there too. All right, I'm just going to switch to the CLI. All right, I hope you can see that. Okay, so I'm in the terminal here, and the way you install the Kilo CLI is you can use this npm command here. And if you visit kilo.ai/CLI, kilo.ai/CLI, you can see the options to use different package managers to install Kilo. So it's not just npm, there's also yarn and all those good ones. Brendan just sent it in the chat. So fast, Brendan. So you install with this or update. I already have it installed, obviously. And then you just type Kilo, and it opens up our brand new CLI. Look how pretty it is. I think it's much prettier and cleaner and more aesthetic than the old CLI. If anyone's used that old CLI, let me know what you think. But you can tab to switch agent modes here. So in the CLI right now, we actually have 2 agent modes plus any of the custom modes you make. So there's plan, which is like architect, so it can plan the implementation of your project before you actually get started. There's code, which is like the default for coding and implementation. And then I have a custom mode here that I made, which is UX designer. And you can put as many custom modes as you want and switch between them easily with tab. To switch the model you're on, you can use a / command and go to models here. And you click enter and it gives you the whole list of models. You can search from them. You can switch, type that wrong. You can switch easily here between them and then escape to leave. There's also / commands for all of the other configuration options. There's switching agents, providers, opening the text editor. You can also create and update agents files. So for those of you who don't know, Kilo now supports agent skills. So you can add those there, or excuse me, the new agent files. And there's also skills, which you can add there. So skills give you even further specialized, give your agents even further specialized knowledge about how to do certain actions, and they're only invoked when it's relevant. So you can add a skill that'll be like documentation writer. And then whenever you command Kilo, and only when you command Kilo to write documentation, it'll invoke that skill and use that context to do a more specialized task. You can also switch between the teams. So like you can switch between your personal account and your orgs and switch between the different orgs that you're a part of if you're part of multiple. And then to get even more commands, you can click Control P on a Mac anyway. And you can see all of the different options here. So all you have to do to get started is maybe you could switch to code mode or whatever you want to do. You could say something like update the UI of the menu on this app. Fire that off. I'm using Minimax M2.1, which is currently completely free and one of my personal favorite new models. And it'll just start working here. It'll show you some information about the sessions, the cost. So this is a free model, so it's not showing the costs. And I saw someone ask for that. It's already actually here. If you see, it'll show you the total cost of the session. It'll show you the amount of tokens that you're sending and the amount of tokens of the session as they accrue. And it's going to go ahead and start making these edits here. I'm going to jump over to the questions tab and see if we can answer some now. So someone said, do you plan to release your own application like the Codex app? So yeah, no news on that now. No plans on that yet. We feel like we really want to continue building the best agentic experience in the VS Code and the terminal, because that's where our developers have let us know that that's where they work. But that's an interesting thought. So we'll definitely let you know if that ever changes. Let's see what else. For someone just getting deeper into Kilo this year, what are the top 1 or 2 metrics or workflows that you can recommend that we focus on to get outsized results? That's a great question. So there's a few things, right? Like, I think the first thing is, making sure that you're using the full breadth of the Kilo platform. So a lot of our users are only using, VS Code in the terminal, which is great. Like that's, the bread and butter, but we also have all these other great features in the Kilo platform that if you can learn to, incorporate those into your workflow, I think it can really accelerate your development. So that's things like App Builder, which is a natural language prototyper. So, before you kick off a project, you can just type in natural language and see a live preview of the app that you want to build right there in the web. There's Cloud Agents, which are there's actually a really great new feature that I might talk about later, which is Cloud Agents and Webhooks, which is a web-based AI coding agent with like a full cloud-based development environment that you can actually kick off with webhooks. So you can programmatically run AI coding agents, meaning you can do things like automate GitHub issues. Like if you're, working as an engineer on call, you can have it start working on inbound tickets as they come before you even see it yourself. You can have the Cloud Agent kick off and do that. And when we do the Q&A in the end, we'll get deeper into this question because I think it's a good question. Okay, so it's done. I'm gonna run it later because I want to make sure that we get to our guests, but that's kind of what the workflow looks like, right? So it's a free model, but if it wasn't free, we would have used 3 cents with Minimax, which was pretty great for a task like this. So that's Kilo CLI 1.0. I'd love for you all to give it a try and let us know what you think. These webinar audiences always give me great feedback, so I'm super excited to hear your thoughts. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about quickly before we get to our guests, and I'm going to have to stop sharing my screen again here, is the Kilo League. So the Kilo League is a brand new hackathon series that we just launched on Wednesday, and I'm super excited about it. The response has already been awesome. We've already got a bunch of submissions, but I want to break it down for anyone who's hearing about it for the first time. So the Kilo League is essentially a year-long competitive arena for agentic engineering. And I know that sounds like a mouthful, so let me put it more simply. We're running weekly challenges throughout the entire year that test your ability to work with AI coding agents. And the whole thing culminates in a grand prize of $50,000. So the way it works is we do these weekly mini hackathons with a little challenge to get you to build something with Kilo. You submit it to us. We pick winners. And over the course of the year, the people who continue to win will get chosen to compete in sort of like a playoff bracket where the grand prize will be $50,000. So you can participate in just one, and you can go for every week. We're giving out $1,000 of Kilo credits as a prize. So first place, $500, second place, $250, third place, $150. So you can just do one if you want and compete for one of those prizes, or you can continue competing and go for the $50,000. Someone's going to get it, and it could be you. All you got to do is stay tuned. On Wednesdays, we'll be launching the new challenges every week. We're trying to make them as easy as possible to participate. And I know the Kilo audience already builds some really cool stuff. So I'm excited to see what you all build, because the reason we're doing this is that we believe that a lot of developers have barely scratched the surface of what's possible with AI. And it's like, a lot of people are still, I know not this audience necessarily, but a lot of people are still using AI coding tools as like fancy autocomplete. And that's fine, but with Kilo, you can do true agentic orchestration. And there's a lot of fun use cases that you can build with our new features. So we really want to put that on display. The first challenge is live right now. And I mentioned it when I was talking about the CLI a little bit, but we have this new feature for cloud agents, which cloud agents are web-based, cloud-based AI coding agent, which is webhooks. So webhooks allow you to programmatically launch a cloud agent instance. And for those who might be worried about this, we did remove the $1 restriction for using cloud agents. There's also several free models in Kilo right now, so you can compete in this challenge completely for free. So no need to worry about that. But the challenge is build something that automates a workflow using cloud agents triggered by webhooks. And maybe Brendan, you could throw the documentation for cloud agent webhooks in the chat, just so people have that reference. But it could be like a GitHub integration, it could be a Discord bot, it could be a simple scheduled job. Really whatever you want. You can get creative. Top prize, $500 in Kilo credits. It's live now. You can enter at kilo.ai/league, or you can just go right to this type form here and kick off a challenge. All right. So that's CLI in the league. Enough of me yapping. I could keep going because there's a list of stuff that's shipped and I'm super excited about. But that's why we brought friends. So let's bring in our first guest, Yob, who I think is first appearance on the Kilo Show. So why don't you hop on stage, Yob, and welcome to the Kilo Show.
Hey everyone, my name is Job. Nice to meet you all. So I just have one quick request for Brian. If you can refresh the slides, I actually just added Kilo Speed style one more slide to the deck. So,
perfect. All right, cool. Awesome. I'm just gonna present this. All right, great. Thanks so much for being here, Yob. I know you have a really interesting use case to talk about, and I'm super excited for you to share it with everybody because I think it's a workflow that's also changed how I work. So yeah, I'm excited to chat about it.
Yeah, let's dive in. So a bit of background about myself. I'm kind of like a hobby developer, growth person. So I'm running growth at Kilo. So that's kind of like diving into data, but also like making changes to the product, landing pages, and so on. So yeah, I'm kind of like using a bunch of the products from Kilo in my role. And I just want to chat about how I use specifically Kilo for Slack and the code reviewer. So I just wanted to give you a really practical example of real-time feedback and usage of Kilo for Slack. So actually, what we just did is we shared feedback that we see in this webinar into a channel in Slack. And as you can see, my colleague Brandon, he asked Kilo right away what
Wow.
the issue was with, I believe it was Chris, who just asked how to update the new CLI version. So what Kilo does, it immediately like looks at the repos that it has access to, and then tells you, answers, can give you answers, can help you with implementation. It can open a PR that you can then like review, pull into your, CLI or IDE or wherever you prefer to work. So I thought it was a cool example of, just a quick sort of, getting an answer or getting something implemented really fast.
Wow. That might be the most Kilo speediest thing that's ever happened on a webinar. That's crazy. So Chris, your issue was answered by Kilo for Slack during that call. That's incredible.
Yeah, so of course this is like a small one, but I just also wanted to talk you through a few examples of the implementation of a new feature for Kilo.
Yeah.
So we've always been very much pay as you go, so you can top up your account or you can like activate other top ups. But we recently also launched Kilo Pass, which is our first AI token subscription. So you can subscribe for a monthly token subscription, and then you can get bonus credits on top of that. So what we did is basically our engineer implemented the feature, Igor, and I needed to implement the marketing changes. So I needed to implement it on the landing pages. I needed to, I wanted to get some kind of like calculator going. So what I did is inside Kilo, or inside Slack, I just asked Kilo the question like, can you describe the implementation that we have for this feature in the backend? So as you can see here, it summed up the whole implementation. So there's 3 plans: Starter, Pro, and Business, which is like $19, $49, or $199. And there was like a kind of like a bonus streak progression. So the longer you stay subscribed, the more you get bonus credits each month. And then if you head to the next one, yeah, so like after a couple of like back and forths between Kilo and myself in Slack, I decided it was like time to like put up the changes. So I asked Kilo to create a calculator that uses the same logic that was described on the backend. And yeah, like as you can see, like Kilo did it. There was still back and forth between me and like the implementation, because somehow it used some kind of like conversion for credits to dollars, which is not the case in Kilo. You just you top up your account, and $1 is actually $1 just added to your balance. So I asked Kilo to change that as well. And then ultimately, like this is what I ended up with on the marketing side. So that's on the pricing side, and on the pricing page, and on the Kilo Pass feature page. So people can switch between monthly and annual. They can choose their tier, and then they can see like the chart, basically interactive. And then if you go to the next one, so for monthly, I also asked Kilo to implement kind of like a slider functionality, so that you can, like see if you, for example, stay subscribed for 6 months or 11 months, then that's the bonus that you will earn and the total value you will get. So you can see like, okay, if you stay 11 months, then you get 35% extra value over those months. And then, basically, I wanted to also like add like a banner to the website. So I used PostHawk, and like I asked it to create the banner for me. And then I made some more changes and iterations on the banner here in Slack as well. And then, as you probably know, we also have like the extension notifications. So like, or in the CLI as well. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to update the wording, because we made some iterations on the wording. So I wanted to update that in the notification. So I asked it to check in the backend repo, for a specific notification, and then update the text there. And maybe good to note here as well is that I usually don't work on like the backend repo. So what I did here is like I asked it to make the changes. Then I looked at the PR. And then when I thought it was making sense, I asked a review from one of our engineers. And then, yeah, this is another example where Scott, our CEO, he suggested that we would extend the second month promo for another week. So I was like, okay, let's go. I asked Kilo to make the change. And then Kilo, gave me the PR. I reviewed it. It looked good to me. I asked for a review from Ari and then merged it afterwards. And then, so that's kind of like, how I use Slack basically every day. And then aside from that, when I spin up these PRs, then I also ask for reviews, which is actually done automatically if you put up a PR with Kilo. So the code reviewer looks at all your changes. Sometimes it actually picks out really sort of like small things that you just overlooked. But it's like, it's really handy to have like sort of a check on like small stuff. Sometimes it's just typos or inconsistencies with like dates or, in this case with dates. But it can be anything, big or small. So I'm always having a look at that as well.
Yeah. And I think this is incredible because, Job and I were not on the engineering team. And to think like a year ago, what this workflow would have required, like Job owned this end to end basically of changing the landing page, updating the backend, adding banners to the site, adding a VS Code extension. Like in the past, that would have previously required him to maybe reach out to 2 or 3 separate engineers to facilitate those changes and then get the reviews, make sure, the PR is ready for, a senior engineer to review. And with Kilo for Slack, and I think everyone at Kilo is using it this way, really, like, especially, us on the marketing team, it's really enabled us in a way that I'm just like blown away by, is that you don't need an engineer to do this busy work for you anymore. When you have marketing requests that require a little engineering work, you can own the whole thing yourself by just pinging Kilo in Slack where you're already talking about it, and it can do the whole flywheel from creating the change, reviewing it, and preparing any changes you need for a quick final review by a human engineer. So for those of you who haven't tried Kilo for Slack, and I know we have some more examples here, and I don't want to rush you off stage, Joe, but I know we're pushing it on time.
Oh, good. Yeah,
so,
this is just, just to illustrate that was just like an average day. Typically I just ask like 4 or 5 different things to Kilo and then get a bunch of PRs, review them, and it's really a massive time saver.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, like enables us to do things that previously were saved only for super technical engineers. So thanks so much, Job, for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm excited for people to try this workflow with Kilo for Slack on their own, and hope to have you on again soon.
Awesome. Thanks. Ciao.
Bye, Job. All right, so next I want to bring on a new incumbent guest of the Kilo show, who is Alex, who leads sales and customer experience here at Kilo. So Alex, if you're there, hop on stage. Let's chat. What's going on? I think you're muted. I can't hear you.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes.
The right microphone. Are you still in San Francisco?
I am. I'm actually as soon as this ends, I'm running to the airport and flying back to New York.
Nice.
But Kilo show is priority, right?
Kilo show cross country, around the world. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. So I want to talk to you about something that is very near and dear to me as someone who's been promoting it all over the world the past couple of weeks, which is code reviews.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what you think as kind of a people person here at Kilo. With the advent of these tools like Kilo's code reviewer, local code reviewer, cloud code reviewer, etc., are human code reviews going away? Like, what does this mean for the human code review process?
I think it's a great question. And, it's interesting. We have this sort of like AI leadership roundtable where we meet once a month and talk to mostly engineering leaders about like how AI adoption is going. So we had just a meeting yesterday, and this is one of the big topics actually that came up. And, it's interesting. There's really, people are in a lot of different places on this. At a lot of organizations, small little code reviews, little changes are being reviewed by one or multiple AI code reviewers, and then they're being implemented sometimes without a human ever seeing it. I think one of the really interesting questions here is like, there are a lot of things like SOC 2 and other kinds of frameworks, require that you have a policy that you adhere to on how you would ensure that your code is good, basically.
Right.
And historically, that's meant human eyes, right? And I think people are in the middle of figuring out, what does it mean to do a good job reviewing code in a world where AI code reviews have gotten as good as they are. And so I think, we'll still be in a world for a while yet where a human's going to review meaningful changes to a code base, right? I think you still want a human to review that. A human can be creative in checking that code in a way that an AI probably won't. But for littler things, I think we're going to increasingly see them getting perhaps the changes and the review happening without a human ever coming into the loop. So I think we'll be seeing that more and more.
Yeah, totally. And I think, some teams are maybe using AI for local reviews plus CI, then having humans build more of like a theory of why it works, rather than a true line by line tedious review. So maybe walk us through what that might look like in practice.
Yeah, it's a really good question, right? It's sort of like, one of the things that we talk a lot about at Kilo Code is like, using these AI tools turns the human from the first chair violinist into the conductor of the orchestra. And so I think it's very much the same thing where, it would be like, instead of the human doing the line by line code review, right? The human's going to write the instructions for the AI to do that review. What are the things the AI should check for? What kinds of checks should it be doing? What should it look at? Are there tests it should run along the way? Both explicit tests of like, running unit tests, like obviously it's going to do that, but also like more implicit tests of like, should it actually just run the app and check it, right? That's increasingly possible. Models are currently very, very slow at using a web browser, but I think that'll get faster. And so like the ability to actually like run a dev version of the app and try it, I think it's probably not easy now for a lot of changes, but it's going to get easier over time. And I think is going to be incorporated into more and more sort of code review pipelines.
Yeah, for sure. So if we're refining these inputs, like you said, to make PR reviews more autonomous, where it's more of the human giving instructions on how the agent can review better, how do we best configure the agents to do that? Like, how do we actually equip them to do that in practice?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think there are tools out there like Kilo that allow you to bring, custom review instructions to bear. The other thing is, right, I think people are increasingly investing in tools like skills.md and agents.md that the reviewers can use at review time to know what are the conventions that we expect in our code, right? What are the other things? The other thing that I think is really interesting, and I think this is sort of like on the frontier right now, is, a lot of companies have long histories of doing static code reviews. And so I think beefing those things up is going to be part of it. And also making those static reviews and the static review tools accessible to the agents is going to be like a really big piece of this, that, making static tools that are available to agents and editable by agents, right? Where they can write their own static reviews. A little bit like, right. I think these days Opus can probably count the number of R's in Strawberry, but like the thing that they could do for a long time, right? Even when the models couldn't count the R's in Strawberry, they could write a Python script to count the R's in Strawberry. So it's kind of the same thing where like, I might not always trust the agent to, to actually like do an in-depth code review, but I probably would trust it to configure a static code review tool to do a lot of that. And so I think that's the direction we'll see this going, is like making those kinds of tools more and more available to the agents and having them write their own configurations and their own tests going forward.
Yeah, totally. And then last question before we jump over to Brendan, because I know we're pushing on time.
Yeah.
Is, what about the developer side? So now that we are making everything more autonomous, what human skills actually matter more or less when, this review process is changing the way it is?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, right? I do think that ability to play the orchestrator role, to communicate really clearly, to be a good manager, basically, is going to get more and more important over time. As that's how we're interacting with these agents. I also think, though, there's going to be a while where reviewing big PRs, reviewing complex PRs, reviewing PRs that are sort of deep in the back end on a lot of these tools is going to be a human task for a while. And so, I was talking to somebody last week who they love Kilo, but their boss has been at the same company for 8 years, and they keep pitting their boss against whatever model comes out. And like, their boss is still faster because he knows this code base so well that
Right.
like that's still an asset. And so I think there is still going to be a lot of returns to being a real expert in particular languages, particular domains, particular code bases for a while yet. And being able to instantly look at what the agent has done and know that it's wrong or have a sense that it's right is going to be a real skill that I think is still worth investing in for a ways ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. And thanks so much for joining, Alex.
Yeah.
It was delightful. I'm sure
great to get to chat. Have a safe trip home.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So next up, last and certainly not least, is someone who the webinar chat was chanting the GOAT for last week, which is Brendan. So Brendan, if you want to hop on stage. And for context, Brendan and I were in San Francisco together for a really fun reason, which I think he's going to talk about in a minute. But how long exactly were you in San Francisco for?
Yeah, I was on the ground in San Francisco for exactly 23 hours. So like when I landed from Maryland, I got like the alert when my phone turned back on that it was time to check in for my flight. So that's how long I was in San Francisco for, which is just a little crazy.
That's nuts. Kilo speed though, right?
Very kilo speed of me. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So one of the things I want to talk about first, but I have our San Francisco trip and some updates from it as one more thing at the end. But first I want to talk about something that really, really awesome that came out of our focus week in Spain last week, which is that we've decided to, and actually since then have done it, make our backend, where we saw Yob talking about the backend earlier. So this is the service that runs our API, like our all of our API for all of our inference in Kilo Gateway, as well as like all of our cloud products. So the reviewer you were just talking about, cloud agents that underlie it, Kilo for Slack that Yob was demoing. All of that code is now going to be source available and is source available. So if you go to github.com/kilo-org/cloud, you can see that there. Now, of course, this is the code that runs our business, right? The business that we're selling to folks, the teams and enterprise part of our business. So it's not open source, right? Like the rest of our extensions and everything else, but it is source available. So that means that you can actually like inspect that code, view it, learn from it, and contribute to it, right? So this is something I'm pretty familiar with. Like if you go to the next slide, I think we can talk through some more of that. This is similar to GitLab's model, right? So GitLab is open source, based on open source, and then has an enterprise offering on top, which is source available. And while I was there, we had customers, including Fortune 10 customers, contribute to our code base. And so this, not only makes it a bit possible for you to like trust and verify what we're doing through the Kilo Gateway, it also means that you can, contribute back if you've got ideas. And it's all part of our open commitment. So on the next slide, there's a page called kilo.ai/open, which somebody could drop in the chat. That is all of our commitments to open source. I think it's really critical that we state those out loud and let the community hold us to it. We believe that the future of AI coding agents is open. I've strongly believed for a long time that developer tools have to be open to be successful. We don't think that, the vector space is enough of a black box in the AI world. We want the code that's like running against that vector space to be open and available and able for you to all to inspect. So really excited about that. And then, so let's talk about San Francisco. The spoiler alert is the first ever ClaudeCon happened. So if you're not chronically online, you may have not run into OpenClaw, which was formerly called Moltbot for about a day, which was formerly called Claude. What was it? Clawbot, right? Yeah. Claudebot. So yeah, there's too many names to remember. Now OpenClaw, I think, is a little easy to remember. So Peter, the creator of OpenClaw, who I've also quoted in some of my blogs before for his opinions on agentic engineering, has been in San Francisco for the past week. He's been at meetups every day. And for this meetup, which was ClawCon 1, we were asked to sponsor. And so we brought some local West Coast crab claws to ClawCon. And I really should have prepped and tried to say this stuff ahead of time because I'm gonna trip myself up. But they were the hit of the show. Really, really crazy event. I think the venue could seat like 400 people, and I think there were about like 1,200 people that showed up, lined down the street. They opened up another whole floor to simulcast to get more people in. So if you haven't followed Claudebot or OpenClaw, it's this idea. It's a very new product that's open source, but the general idea is like, what if you gave agents a lot of autonomy and allowed them to do stuff? And so this ClaudeCon was like people showing stuff off. They had robots there controlled by it. They showed how they're automating their jobs with it. It's crazy and new. And we want to support it. So the one extra thing that we're launching today, and you are literally the first people to hear about it because I got it done before the webinar, and I have a list of things to do, like post to our socials and stuff after the webinar, is Kilo is going to allow you to have hosted OpenClaw by Kilo, leveraging your Kilo Gateway credits, leveraging our free models with it, and hosted in a sandbox, right? So one thing that I've learned about OpenClaw is I installed it on my Mac Studio, and I got pretty scared because it had access to everything. So I moved it to a VPC and kind of gave it its own accounts. Instead of giving it my GitHub account, I gave it its own GitHub account, and kind of create a little separation of concerns, because it will do whatever it can to try and solve problems for you, which is good and can be good and bad, right? We know that AI is undetermined, not deterministic. So actually, if I could share my screen, I kind of want to talk about KiloClaw real quick.
While you're sharing, I just want to clarify that me and Brendan brought 120 kilograms of crab to this event. And Greg in the chat said Claudebot is the Wild West. This event was the Wild West. It was crazy. There were so many developers there. People like cleaned out all the crab that we brought. It was an incredible event. It was super exciting. We saw Ashton Kutcher there, and there's actually a fun little video of how it went down that Brendan's sharing right now.
Yeah, I'm showing it right now. Brian made this great video of him and I. So we had landed, fun fact, we had landed on the East Coast of the US on like Sunday from Spain. And then Monday they were like, hey, can you sponsor this event? And we were like, say less. And then Brian and I got on a plane. There we are in San Francisco. There's the huge line you can see of people waiting to get in. There's the kilos worth of crab, us bringing it in and loading it up. We also had bibs. And everyone asked me, they're like, oh, did you get the bibs branded with Kilo? And I was like, that's a great idea. And if we had had more than 36 hours to plan it, we definitely would have, but we didn't. but they were still cute anyway. People loved the bibs. They loved the crab. It was a fantastic little event. And so I had to put the video up on kilo.ai/KiloClaw, which if somebody could share in the chat would be great. But yeah, this is fantastic event with OpenClaw, and a little picture of our best friend Brian here at the end. So yeah, you can check out kilo.ai/KiloClaw to join the wait list. We plan to launch this next week, and the plan is to have it be free, completely, free for 7 days. Eventually, you'll pay for the compute to have your agent running all the time, but for now, it'll be free in the trial period. So join the wait list to be the first to find out about when that starts. And then again, like I said, you can today, and I do today, use OpenClaw with my Kilo Gateway credits. But this will be the easiest way to do that, kind of one button push to sign up. And you'll be able to use your Kilo credits to pay for the compute, use your Kilo credits to pay for the AI inference, or even better, for the AI inference, use the free models that we offer onto the Kilo Gateway so that your inference for OpenClaw can be free. And so that's really exciting. Join the wait list. It's no Mac Mini required. I added our little friend, this Mac Mini here, just to remind you of that. But yeah, really exciting. We're hoping that it's going to be a fantastic way to leverage the fact that the Kilo Gateway is now open to the world, and leverage, some hopefully an easier, faster, maybe more secure way than just running OpenClaw just on your system whole hog. So check it out. Really excited for all of you to do that. See if you can get rid of the crab. It's hard to do. There's lots of little crab Easter eggs. But yeah, stay tuned for more and sign up for the waitlist. And we're excited to try this out. And I'm excited.
Yeah, super exciting. We could feel the excitement at that event. It was incredible. And we just got a question from Joshua saying, are you saying that the Kilo Gateway is open to use outside of Kilo in general now, or just in OpenClaw?
That's a great question. Yeah, so because of the hype around OpenClaw, we've decided to open up the Kilo Gateway to anything. And I'll just share another little page on that, which is kilo.ai/gateway. So yes, it was originally to support folks using it in OpenClaw, but you can now, based on some changes we made to the gateway, as well as changes we made to our terms of service, you are now allowed to use our Kilo Gateway anywhere you want. So you can bring your Kilo Gateway there, bring your own keys into the Kilo Gateway, and have it be kind of your central universal gateway to the world, where the Kilo Gateway is the thing that kind of is doing your centralized routing, and you can leverage our free models in other places. You can leverage your Kilo credits in other places. You can use your Kilo Pass other places. So yeah, this is a brand pretty new. This is as of last week that we opened it up. You can learn more at kilo.ai/gateway. And yeah, I think, Josh is asking, bye OpenRouter. Do you use OpenRouter on the back end? So yes, part of what we're using is OpenRouter, but not just OpenRouter. So the Kilo Gateway, and the page probably goes into, or documentation goes into more, goes through OpenRouter, the Vercel AI Gateway, as well as direct connection to some of our partners, right? So for some of the free or stealth models, or some of the like sped up providers, we do go direct to some providers. So we're leveraging that together to bring AI inference to you.
Awesome. All right. I just want to quickly shout out the open source sponsorship program again, and then we can answer some questions before the end of the hour. So for those who haven't been to, or haven't maybe been to one of our previous webinars or haven't heard yet, Kilo is all about open source. If you haven't been able to pick up on that from this webinar, and we want to give back to other open source projects. So we're running the open source sponsorship program, which gives you guaranteed free access to Kilo through free models, as long as you're part of the program, starting with code reviews. So you get free AI-powered code reviews through the program. You also get Kilo for Enterprise for free, which gives you a bunch of really valuable security, analytics, and team management features. And for select projects that maybe are a little bit bigger or have more regular contributions, you can qualify for credits up to $200 a month. So all you have to do is go to kilo.ai/OSS, which I just dropped in the chat, and you can apply. Takes about 10 seconds to apply. You just send us the link for your GitHub repo. And we accept any project that has a valid open source license. So MIT or Apache or any of those. And depending on the project size, you'll get some mixture of free code reviews, Kilo for Enterprise, and for some projects, credits. And we'll also promote you on our website, in our blog in the future, on our social media. There's already a pretty massive community of projects that are part of this program. So if you are an open source maintainer or know someone who is, definitely sign up and we'll be in touch. All right, I know we've been on for a while, but I want to make sure we get to everyone's questions. So I'm going to stop sharing and let's Kilo speed run the questions channel, Brendan, if you're down.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, I'm ready. Okay, so great. Oh, this is a good question. Is the Kilo EU or US in our soul? That's a great question. Yeah, Brian and I live in the US, so I don't want to like steal EU, appropriate EU culture, but I think it's the EU in the soul. Like our founder is Dutch. We love this Dutch guy named Salman, who does like this crazy fast song that we all love. And the only place that we have actual office space is in Amsterdam. So I'm going to claim both, but EU is the real soul.
Yeah, and I saw Job typing there in the chat, and I think he was ready to correct you if you tried to pull a US one there. Amsterdam, Job said. Yeah, I agree. Definitely EU in the soul. That's a fun question, though. All right, let's see what else. So I'm going to answer this one. Does Kilo work with Bitbucket webhooks? So that's on the roadmap. If you go to the integrations page on your account, you'll see Bitbucket coming soon panel. So stay tuned for updates on that. Not yet, but it's definitely on the roadmap. All right, what else we got here?
Yeah, I was going to look. So yeah, there's this question about, so now we have the ability for you to use your ChatGPT Pro subscription inside of Kilo, which I think is huge. We're really, grateful to our partners at OpenAI for, like seeing that, like, hey, we want to bring more people under the fold and have the right harnesses, involved. And asked about it for Gemini. Yeah, I think it'd be great for Gemini. We're working with them. Again, we want to like, the key here is we've got to stay within, folks' terms of service, right? And again, like we did the ChatGPT Pro integration the way that OpenAI allows. So yeah, we'll be looking into that for sure. And like, I think it'd be great if we could have that kind of level of integration with every one of the large frontier labs. And yeah, Ari, who's a friend of the show, Ari, is working hard on that with any lab that you can name, and probably even ones you don't know exist yet. So it's exciting.
Yeah, totally. All right, we got another question here. Is supporting GitLab webhooks also on the roadmap? Yes.
Yeah, I would say the answer is yes. Also near and dear to my heart because I spent 5 years there. But we're actually working directly with GitLab on that, and their engineers are even contributing to it. The GitLab mantra is everyone can contribute, and their engineers are contributing directly to it, and it's coming very soon.
Cool. And I'll take this new one because it's very relevant to another program that I launched recently. Do you get any credits for merged PRs? The answer is yes, especially in February. Anyone who merges a community PR, open source PR, will get $150 of Kilo credits. And I'm actually going to share my screen real quick because we kind of quietly launched, and we'll make more noise about it next week, a new contributor champion program. So this is also something that this audience might be one of the earliest to see, which is kind of like a tiered champions program for people that contribute to Kilo. So after one contribution in February, you'll get $150 for every merged PR. You'll also get, special badges for your GitHub and LinkedIn. You'll get access to a private contributors channel on Discord. Where we have the contributors page where you'll get your name listed, and you'll get priority triage for future issues after you merge PR. After 5 merge PRs, you get everything in the contributor tier, plus you get a special Kilo contributor hat and sticker, like specifically made for contributors only. You'll get $50 a month in Kilo credits as long as you continue merging at least once a month. You'll get early access to special beta features. You'll get a quarterly call with some people from Kilo, just one-on-one. You'll get featured in a monthly contributor spotlight blog post. And then after 15 merged PRs, which is when you're really a contributor champion, you get everything in the other tiers. You'll get a custom Kilo contributor hoodie, which I designed, and it's very cool. You'll get $150 a month in Kilo credits. Get a dedicated Slack channel if you want with us. You'll get co-marking opportunities with blog features, case studies, etc. You might even get a guest slot on the Kilo show or other live webinar events, and you'll get to sit down with the Kilo team to provide some roadmap input and early feature previews. So kilo.ai/contribute. We're all about open source. We want to make it as fun as possible for people to contribute. And Thomas, so if you have contributed, if you have had a merged PR in February or during our other merged PR promotions that were in the prior weeks, you'll get your credits by this upcoming Monday. So we had, a bunch of people participate. Don't worry, if you merge a PR according to the promotion, you'll get your credits in the next coming days. So yeah, we're super grateful to have you contributing to Kilo. And if you meet the requirements of the Kilo Champions program, you'll also be notified of that next week. So yeah. Let's see what else. Anything else? I think we looks like we pretty much covered it. And yeah, so if anyone has any other questions, feel free to just reach out directly to me. Here's my email. I trust this audience to ask me good questions. And thanks to Yob and Alex and Brendan for being our guests this week. Super fun session. Thanks everyone for attending. Like I said, we're going to pick 5 people. You get credits and t-shirts. You'll be notified of that if you're selected randomly from the audience or from the people that asked a question, rather. And stay tuned for Kilo Show next Friday. And we also have a webinar on Tuesday, I believe, where we're going to sit down with the Anthropic team and discuss some news from Anthropic. So stay tuned for an email on that, and hope to see you all very soon. Thanks for joining the Kilo Show. Bye, everybody.